Paul Conway is with us. Paul is the Vice President and Chair of Policy and Global Affairs for the American Association of Kidney Patients, AAKP. And good to have you with us. He was formerly the Chief of Staff for the U.S. Civil Service for K. Cole James, 201 to 205 under GW. And part of his responsibility was standing up the Department of Homeland Security, the TSA, and various personnel reforms at the Pentagon. So Paul Conway knows a little bit about Washington, D.C., knows a little about the inner workings of the apparatus. And you're with Patrick Mara. And I'm very, very, very much a supporter of MAHA and what you're doing for those that have kidney problems. And with Patrick's dad's got one. We'll get into that in a minute. Had one on, I'm sorry,
Yeah, it's okay.
passed,
It's
right?
yeah,
Passed. I'm
right,
sorry,
right.
Patrick. But listen, I'm going to go right to it, Paul, if I can.
Sure.
Okay? Because this is a real important issue for us that know people like yourself and Patrick's, dad who died, and many others in my circle that are on kidney dialysis. So under Biden's CMS, right? He shortchanged kidney care. And what they did was they changed kidney care to sick care. Basically, you might as well put him in hospice, right? Because I hate to be blunt here, but that's what they were doing. And you just got on dialysis and you waited to die, and then you did. And these people they're so awful, but that's what they did. And what we're looking for, Paul, is to get people with kidney failure. We want to get them on a pathway to a kidney transplant, which is a permanent solution for life, not a dialysis until you die. It's a permanent solution. There is medication that you have to take to prepare for a kidney transplant in the future, and that gets you off of permanent dialysis. That's not covered right now by CMS. We want to get that covered because that gives people the prospect of a long and prosperous and healthy life and not just waiting to die. Paul, have I summed this up too candid, or have I just summed this up?
No, I think you summed it up perfectly. And by the way, it's great to be with you, and my sincere empathy to you for losing your father. A lot of the work that we do as advocates is fueled by the memories of those who are our best friends and those who we may never meet, but we all went through the same thing. So hats off to you for taking care of your father during that period of time. But no, John, you summarized it perfectly. I mean, the bottom line was, in our view, under the Biden administration, CMS was managing a program and not looking out for the people that ostensibly they are sworn to serve. And so it became one of these things where you had a novel therapy that came out, a brand new therapy that could help people manage high phosphorus and stay healthy. And essentially what they decided to do is shove it all into the same type of payment model. And then, their big thought was, hey, more people will use it. It'll be more accessible. And, go figure. It created a barrier to access. People are still suffering from this. Doctors, technicians, people who care for people on dialysis and dialysis patients are all saying that since this policy went into effect in January of 2025, and let me be very clear, this is the Biden administration policy, there's been less access to your ability to manage phosphorus. This is nearly 500,000 Americans. There's 600,000 on dialysis. Nearly 500,000 are impacted by this policy. And so we're working to undo it to make certain that those people who have to manage high phosphorus have access to it so they can be healthier. And if the opportunity for a transplant comes, they're healthy enough to get it.
But right now, what is the medication needed that a person on kidney dialysis with kidney failure needs to take to prepare their body for a potential kidney transplant, which is a long-term solution, which is a permanent solution?
So there's a variety of drugs, but one of the biggest threats to your opportunity to get a transplant and to avoid getting a stroke or having a heart attack is managing your phosphorus. And so this is a new era of therapies called phosphorus-lowering therapies, PLTs. And they really do help, because when you're on dialysis, you simply are relying on a machine to filter those things your body would normally take care of. But even the best dialysis machines can't do that job perfectly on its own. So you need this medication. And, at the end of the day, what happened was they essentially took this medication and stuck it in. This is a subjective decision, not a matter of law, not a matter of regulation. This is a subjective decision by CMS career officials to stick it into this uh, group of medicines that they're all paid the same. And so we think it's the wrong fit. We're hoping that Dr. Oz will take a serious look at this, because he knows quite well from his experience how important it is for people to stay healthy and get a transplant. And he himself has called dialysis a second base solution compared to transplant. And the president's policy, going back to 2019, President Trump, historic document, Executive Order on Advancing American Kidney Health, says very clearly, take care upstream, manage people better in terms of their health, and let's get them a transplant. This policy, done in the last moments of the Biden administration, really fully contradicts the Trump Executive Order of 2019. You can't find a better contrast of Trump policy for people and Biden policy, in my view, for maintaining a program. And so it's a completely different worldview. The president was very focused on solutions. These folks are very interested in, as one person I worked for one time, a Marine Corps general said, they're buoy painters. They're out there in the bay. They got their bucket of paint. They're painting the buoy. Tide comes up, tide goes down. They're still painting the buoy. That's the type of mentality sometimes that people have in these agencies.
Paul, this goes through CMS, right?
Yeah.
So Dr. Oz, very, very, very accomplished doctor, surgeon, heart surgeon, great guy, friend of mine. Obviously, everybody knows that Dr. Oz and I are very close. I backed his Senate run in 2022, put my heart and soul in it, as everyone knows. What does Dr. Oz, what does he have to do to move away from the Biden managed, you call it managed care, I call it managed death.
Yeah.
What are we, because that's what it is. Basically, go die on your analysis. We got something better to do with our time. How do we get Dr. Oz engaged here to be able to shift the focus of what we're doing back to kidney transplants the way President Trump did in term one?
I think he'll get there, John. I think for everyone to understand, CMS is a massive agency.
Right.
They have all these different things that are in front of them. But basically, there are 4 things that every single agency head should ask the day they arrive, and they're presented with any kind of an explanation by career federal officials. And the first question is this a matter of law? Second is this a matter of regulation? The third is this a matter of interpretation? And the fourth is this a matter of tradition? Number 3 and 4, interpretation and tradition, mean you can throw them out and you can do your own thing. And basically what we think is that on this particular issue, Dr. Oz needs to bring in the people that have been defending this, out painting the buoy the same color every time, and say, hey, look, here's presidential policy, an executive order dating back 6 years. How does what you have arrived at on this phosphorus-lowering therapy square with the president of the United States in 2025 or 2026?
Right.
And let them explain themselves, because our belief is, and we've looked at this very thoroughly, there's no way that you can say this is a matter of law or regulation. This is subjective interpretation of the staff, its legacy. In fairness to Dr. Oz, he's getting his hands around this thing. When you try to turn around a big ship like CMS
Very
or
tough.
HHS, it takes some time, but we think he'll get there.
No doubt. No doubt. He's a very, very capable guy, and we need to bring this to his attention. Patrick Mayer with us. Patrick, you went through this with your dad. What happened?
Well, yeah, I mean, it's just living in DC alone. It seems that it might be exaggerating here on the stat, but I know a lot of people that go to dialysis here in DC. I think particularly one thing I've noticed in the African American demographic, there are just a lot of people on dialysis. When I was there was a point where I was elected to the Board of Ed in DC. I was the only Republican elected. And whenever there'd be a citywide event, Marion Barry would want to sit with me. Well, Marion Barry had to have a kidney, he had to have a kidney transplant. But then when you dig down into that, it's all across the board, it's throughout the city. A former chairman of the DC GOP, she passed away. She had she had issues with her kidneys, and then eventually, like with cancer in her liver. My dad, when I was in high school, had to have a kidney removed because he had a cancerous tumor. And then it was just, I didn't know this then, but you might as well just, at that point, you might as well just start the clock. I was a kid, so you're optimistic at that point, but obviously 8 years later, he passed away. And so the kidneys, to me, this overlooked organs, but this is why I'm drinking black coffee right now. I'm going to have about 20 cups of water today, etc. The question I had is, because I think this is very, very interesting. What's the supply chain look like for kidney transplants? Because I love the idea, but it seems like sometimes it's harder to get a kidney. But what does that look like? And then are we able to replicate it? Because we all know at some point, right, we're going to be able to replicate a kidney. With AI, we're going to be able to do anything, right? So just that, I guess that would be my big question on the transplant situation.
I'll tell you, it's a very optimistic time. We call this the decade of the kidney. And so in terms of where science fiction is meeting reality, in terms of the supply, you're starting to see greater efforts in xenotransplantation, which is pig kidneys.
Yep.
You're starting to see the development of 3D printed organs and artificial organs. FDA, in fact, just approved one that do some of the functions of dialysis, but it's embedded in your body. But on the larger issue here of getting people to donate an organ, I think a lot of credit has to go to the president. He did an executive order that said transplant first, not dialysis. So this phenomena of seeing dialysis units on every street corner, that's old thinking. That's treating the problem after failure, so his policy direction has been clear on it. The other thing that he did is, and he does not get enough credit for this, in 2020, he removed a burden that's been on transplant patients for decades, which is this: if you got your kidney transplant, your drugs were covered for 36 months, and that's it. So we would work with a lot of folks as advocates who would lose their organ because if they lost their job and their insurance, they couldn't figure out whether or not to pay for their food, their rent, or their kidney drugs. So they would go back on dialysis. Well, that ended in 2020 because the president included it in his budget reconciliation. And those drugs now, you have an avenue to pay for them, so no one has to lose their organ. The nice thing about that is organ donors know this. And so the likelihood that if your gift of life may not be taken care of through appropriate medications, that's in the rearview mirror now, which is a very positive thing. The one thing that we would like to see improved, Capitol Hill has had a number of hearings over the past 3 or 4 years, about some faults in the transplant system. But they make such a circus out of it that when people are seeing this on the news, they get discouraged by it. Instead of spending the time on all the good stories, 95 or 97%, they're interested in the 3%. And then what happens? They create a car accident and they walk off. And they don't do anything to elevate the positive. And then when people see it, they wonder, hey, will my gift of life be honored or not? Mm-hmm. And so, we're working really hard to turn that around. We're really pleased to see Dr. Oz, the Secretary Kennedy, and Makari at FDA. All three of them have been out front on transplant first. They've been consistent on the policy. The only thing is really seeing how that translates through and you grab a hold of an agency and get everybody 3 levels down thinking the same thing. And that's not an easy job.
Paul Conway, I really want to thank you. I want to thank you for your leadership here. I want to thank you for all you're doing. Those of us that have kidney failure or know people in our circle of life that have it, you're doing the God's work, and we're gonna get this done. It's a very important issue that gets overlooked, as you say. And the whole Biden administration was basically, you got kidney failure, put you out to pasture to die. It's tough to say that, but it's what they did.
I lived it. I'm telling you, I lived it. We talked to White House folks. It was like talking to a piece of cement, and I'll never forget it. Never forget it.
They want to go. Rokan has said it the other day. The goal of this whole thing is to get to a single payer system. It's to get to socialized medicine. That's their goal, so they can control the whole healthcare system. That's their objective. That gives them all the power. And then basically, if you're over 65, hey, you know what? Hospice is your answer. That's where this is going, and people better wake up. And certainly, this kidney issue is one of the first things. Paul Conway, Paul, it's great to have you with us, man. You look great, by the way. You've been on kidney dialysis forever. You look fabulous. I don't know how you do it.
Thanks. It's me and this guy named Paul Mitchell. No, I'm just kidding.
That's right. That must be it. Vice President, Chair of Policy and Global Affairs. That's quite the title for the American Association of Kidney Patients, AAKP. Paul, thanks for being with us. Very Merry Christmas to you.
Merry Christmas to you both. Absolutely.
And your family.